Just imagine you are tied up and hung upside down so that the blood circulation to your head is active and you don't lose consciousness. And then, two executioners take a large saw and start sawing you alive from between your legs. You are not dying. You are watching your body split in two while fully conscious. The courts of medieval Europe used these punishments not to suppress crime, but to create a hell that surpasses even your imagination. Rome did not simply punish its criminals, it performed their suffering. Every execution was a message, written in blood, for tens of thousands of spectators to read.
Just imagine. Get ready, because today we are going to see 20 of the most brutal punishments in history.
20. The breaking wheel. Used in Germany, France, and Eastern Europe for murderers and traitors. Executioners used heavy iron bars to smash the victim's limbs until every bone shattered. The shattered body was then woven through the spokes of a large wagon wheel and hoisted atop a tall pole. Victims often survived in agony for hours or even days, left to die from dehydration, exposure, and scavenging birds. 19. Forest of Stakes, mass impalement. Famously utilized by Vlad III Vlad the Impaler in 15th century Wallachia, where he reportedly impaled 20,000 prisoners at once to terrify invading enemies. Victims were stripped and forced down onto a thick, greased, sharpened wooden stake. The stake entered through the lower body and emerged from the chest or mouth. It was done carefully to miss vital organs so that death would come slowly over several days. 18. Flayed for display. Reserved for corrupt judges, traitors, or rebel leaders in medieval England, France, and Persia. Executioners used knives to meticulously peel the skin off a living victim. The removed skin was then nailed to public walls or courthouse doors as a literal warning that power should not be abused. In Persia, the skins were sometimes stuffed with straw and hung from city gates. 17. Boiled alive. King Henry VIII made boiling a legal punishment for poisoners in 16th century England, though it was also used in medieval France, Germany, and Russia. The condemned was dropped into a giant cauldron filled with water, oil, or molten lead. Sometimes they were placed in cold liquid, and a fire was lit underneath to slowly build the agonizing heat until their organs failed. 16. The sack of animals, poena culiae, a revival of an ancient Roman punishment typically used for parricide, killing a parent or close relative. The criminal was sewn into a heavy leather or linen sack, along with live, terrified animals, such as a dog, a snake, a monkey, or a rooster. The sack was then thrown into a river, where the frantic animals bit and scratched the victim as they all drowned together. 15. Scaphism, the boats, an ancient Persian torture method that medieval European writers obsessed over. The victim was sandwiched naked between two hollowed-out logs or boats, leaving only their head, hands, and feet exposed. They were force-fed milk and honey until they suffered severe diarrhea and vomiting. Honey was also smeared on their skin to attract swarms of insects, which slowly devoured the victim alive in a stagnant marsh over weeks. 14. Sawed alive, a brutal method chosen when judges wanted to inflict maximum terror. The victim was hung upside down by their ankles, which forced blood to the brain and kept them conscious for a longer duration. Two executioners then used a large two-man saw to cut through the body starting from the groin downward. Victims were often alive and fully aware until the blade reached their abdomen. 13. The Blood Eagle, a ritualistic execution mentioned in Viking sagas, reserved for the worst traitors and enemy kings. The victim's ribs were hacked away from the spine with an axe and pried outward to resemble wings. Their lungs were then pulled out through the wounds, fluttering like bloody feathers as the victim took their final breaths. 12. Red-hot iron crown and throne, designed to mock and punish rebel leaders. Famously inflicted upon Hungarian peasant revolt leader György Doja in 1514. He was forced to sit on an iron throne and wear an iron crown and scepter, all heated until they glowed red-hot. In a grotesque twist, his starving followers were forced to tear off and eat pieces of his burning flesh or face the same execution. 11. Walled up alive, Immurement, a punishment used for nuns breaking their vows, nobles betraying their lords, or habitual thieves. The condemned was placed into a small alcove or niche inside a church or castle wall, and bricklayers sealed them inside with stone. Left with no light, air, or food, the prisoners slowly faded away in total darkness, while people in nearby rooms could hear desperate scratching and prayers. 10. Oubliette, starvation in the dark, derived from the French word oublier, to forget. This was a specialized dungeon shaft found beneath medieval castles. The prisoner was dropped through a trap door into a narrow, deep, pitch-black hole, with no room to stand or sleep comfortably. They were given little to no food and water, effectively left to go mad and starve while the world completely forgot about them. 9. Hanging in iron cages, the living gibbet. Common in England and Germany for robbery or rebellion. The living criminal was locked in a human-shaped metal cage and suspended high from poles at busy crossroads or castle gates. They were left entirely exposed without food or water. Crowds would jeer, insects swarmed them, and birds pecked at their flesh until they died of exposure or dehydration. The skeletons were left to rattle in the wind for years. 8. Peine forte et dure, crushed by stones, an official legal torture used in medieval courts, when an accused person stubbornly refused to enter a plea, guilty or not guilty. The victim was laid flat on the ground with heavy wooden boards placed on their chest. Executioners then piled immense stones on top, heavier and heavier, slowly fracturing their ribs and crushing their lungs until they suffocated or agreed to speak. 7. Execution by elephant, a massive display of royal force used primarily in South and Southeast Asia. Enormous elephants were heavily trained to execute commands. At a handler's signal, the elephant would crush the condemned person's head instantly underfoot, or perform a slow punishment by pinning them down, breaking limbs one by one, or tearing them apart in front of thousands of spectators. 6. Burned on iron grates. Unlike a quick burning at the stake, this method turned execution into a slow roasting process. The victim was strapped to a large metal grill or iron grate. The executioner piled hot coals underneath, roasting the body inch by inch. This painful, prolonged spectacle drew massive crowds and was heavily favored by rulers like Vlad the Impaler to shock onlookers. 5. Starvation collars and wheel of thorns, a walk-in physical and mental torture designed for public humiliation. Heavy iron collars studded with sharp interior spikes were locked around the victim's neck or chest. If they tried to rest, sleep, or swallow, the spikes stabbed deep into their arteries and windpipe. They were chained in public market squares where food was intentionally kept just out of reach. 4. Death in the dungeon, a punishment by patience, where the prison itself acted as the executioner. Judges sentenced criminals to permanent, hard imprisonment in cold, wet, subterranean cells, often chained upright to prevent sleep and fed just enough scrax to prolong their misery. Prisoners suffered from severe hallucinations, scurvy, an infection caused by rats gnawing on them at night until they quietly died. 3. Drowning as ordeal and execution. Drowning served as both a trial and execution method, most notably for women accused of witchcraft or infanticide. The accused was tied up and thrown into a river or justice pond via a ducking stool. If they floated, the water was believed to have rejected them, proving they were a witch, resulting in execution. If they sank, they were deemed innocent, though most drowned before they could be saved. 2. Decorative dismemberment, quartering, reserved for high treason and rebel leaders. After execution, the criminal's body was cut into separate pieces: head, arms, legs, and torso. These grisly trophies were sent to different corners of the kingdom and nailed to bridges or town gates, such as Scottish hero William Wallace's limbs being displayed across Britain, to remind the populace of the king's absolute power. 1. The garrote, a mechanical execution method originating in Iberia, Spain, Portugal, and spreading to Italy. The victim was securely seated against a wooden post, and an iron collar was locked around their neck. The executioner then turned a heavy screw or lever at the back. As it tightened, the collar compressed the windpipe, while a metal spike broke the neck spine. This chillingly quiet method remained an official form of execution in Spain until the 1970s. Core takeaway: medieval public executions were designed as theatrical spectacles. The cruelty was not random. It was a calculated tool used by rulers to embed deep psychological fear into the public, ensuring absolute obedience to the law and the crown.